Okay, so I've put up on Blackboard now the requirements for the second part of assignment 1. And there it is. So we're going to ask you to build part of the site. I'm going to give you an information architecture, which I'll show you in a moment. And then I'm asking you to build these. I've got one link missing, one page missing from the list. I need to double check. I know what it was. Policies. Let me just quickly fix that now. So you'll be building 6 pages. The intention was to have you build 5 pages, but we want to give you 5 pages that have got enough content for you to really sink your teeth into. And I think that you need to build the home page in order to orient yourself to the site properly. Like, it'll be really difficult to do it in a disconnected way. So we'll give you some of the content for the home page, but we'll get you to build it anyway, so that you've got one static place where you can navigate through to everything else. Let me just add this in. So you'll be creating 3 content pages and 2 pathway pages, and I'll show you exactly where they fit in the information architecture in a minute. For those of you in Collaborate, I can't see the chat at the moment, so if you need to get my attention, use the raise hand button and that will ding, so I'll know to come back to you. Okay, so you're going to create the home page, the about page, a page I've called programs, which is in the top level of the navigation, a page I've called about, which is also in the top level of the navigation. Then you're going to create a page called manage, which is a child page of programs, and it's a pathway page. And then you're going to create 2 pages that come off that page as well. I'll show you that on the IA in a moment. So your job is to build these pages in their entirety. So you will create the HTML, you will take content off the existing website, and you will edit it to be good content and put it into the new pages. So you will have to look around to find bits and pieces of content in different places, and we'll provide some clarification on this once we get the assignments back to you. So that's kind of first priority, and then I'll give you some more clarification on exactly where to get the content from. Okay, who has a question? No, I don't mind which editor you use at all, but the point of the task is for you to learn to create HTML from scratch. Robin, obviously you know what you're doing. Robin is actually a web person. So go ahead and use whatever you want to use. I would say though that if you don't actually know how HTML works, trying to use a GUI interface like a Dreamweaver, or I can always tell basically, because you'll end up with things just not quite right, or you'll end up with things a little bit fancier than they should be, and we're not going to mark you down for using that software, but we will mark you down for any errors you make based on using it. So my recommendation would be stick with coding it from scratch. It's not actually that hard. What you'll do is create one page and reuse that page as a shell for every other. So get that page right, run it through a validator, get to the point where you've got no errors, then use that page as your template for everything else. The home page will be a bit different because I'm going to give you a wireframe, and I wanted to talk to you about whether you want me to create a CSS for you to use, or whether you would just like to comment in the different sections, and that will make more sense in a minute when I show you the wireframe. So whatever editor you like, you must create HTML5, so I don't want to see any HTML4. It must be correct HTML, it must validate. No deprecated elements, so nothing that is not current in HTML5. And you are not controlling style in the HTML. Okay, so we are doing content and markup only, no style. What else do you need to know about the HTML? I think that's pretty much it. We expect it to be neat and tidy. I know that those of you who've been in the class here, many of you are indenting your code, so Gavin's probably talked to you about doing that. I've tend to write my HTML hard up against a left margin. We're not going to be picky with that. It is easier for you when you're learning HTML to indent your code because it helps you to see where your next elements are starting. Completely up to you, as long as you know it's not all over the place and you're not mixing uppercase and lowercase in your tags and things like that. As long as it looks clean and tidy and it's scannable, that's what we're looking for. Also, one thing to check for is to make sure you have no extraneous elements. Okay, so that means if you've got an element, it should be wrapped around something. So no empty paragraphs to source space, or don't use line breaks to create paragraphs. Paragraphs that are coded as discrete paragraphs with paragraph elements wrapped around them. Make sure you don't have any instances where you're using headings out of order. The headings are used in order all the time. Okay, so you find the content obviously on the corner toolkit. The other thing you have to do with the content, as well as making sure that it's good content for the web, and you should revisit Sophie's lecture on that because it's full of information. You have to also use the State Library of Queensland Style Guide. Now, style guides are all sorts of fun, and that is all sarcasm. So style guides tell you what kind of tone you should use, what kind of punctuation you should use, what kinds of capitalization you should use, which forms of particular words. All the basics will apply. Use Australian spelling, sentence case capitalization, which means only the first word is capitalized unless there are proper nouns in the word. That corner toolkit is a proper noun, so the B gets capitalized every time, which is really annoying because it's not much. The cataloger in me has a connection, and there's not much cataloger in me, let me tell you. So all of those basic things you can be sure are going to be there. What you need to do is check things like the style for bullet points, whether you punctuate at the end, those kinds of things. Check their naming conventions and how they refer to themselves. Basically have a good scan through the style guide. Now there is, I think, at the end of it, there is a checklist. Yeah, I think. Quick style guide, page 31. So go to the quick style guide as a starter. Sorry guys, and collaborate, I'll get there and then I'll stop scrolling so it renders for you. So this covers all the abbreviations, all the key stuff about how they use apostrophes, brackets, semicolons. And this is pedantic, right? But when you get into workforce, it's got to be absolutely 100% right, or someone from marketing will say, nope, sorry, and you'll have to redo it. So these are the governance things that are annoying and that we teach you in this unit so that you know what to expect when you get out into the workplace. It's really incredibly frustrating, but consistency is really important for professional content, so it is important stuff. And I'm a pedant about it in general. You'll notice that the bits of the Blackboard site that I look after are all very consistent. And I think it just gives people a consistent experience and makes it all really easy to get around. So use the checklist for the basics, and anything that you're unsure of that you think might need checking, then go back and have a look at the detail in the guide. If you're unsure on how to interpret something in the style guide, just post it on Facebook and we can talk about it. We're also going to give you the code for your metadata so that you know exactly how to put metadata in. I was going to cover metadata tonight, but it's been a really long class, so I think what I might do is create a little online activity for you, and we can post the stuff on Facebook and have a look there. but it's really simple. We're not going to get you to, in past years I have had students use Dublin Core Qualified, and I'll be frank with you, I hate it and I hate teaching it. It's like I have to go and learn it again every year. So what we're going to do is go with what you'll probably be doing in practice, which is inputting metadata into a content management system, in which case there's either going to be a taxonomy there and you can select things, or you'll just be free text typing into a field with a label on it. So you don't need to know dc.title equals whatever. So we're just going to go with straight meta tags, and you specify title, description, keywords. There's 6 elements that we'll be getting you to specify, and I'll list those out here along with the code. Don't start the metadata until just before you're ready to hand the assignment in. Obviously you don't want to start it like 10 minutes before because it's not quick, okay, and metadata is important, so spend time on it. But you shouldn't do it until your content is finished. It should be the last thing you do. So some general tips that I think I have seen students go wrong with, and actually no, let's look at the IA first. This is teeny tiny, and I tried in vain to get the photocopier to blow it up this afternoon, and the photocopier hates me, so we didn't get there. But you can see here that I've color-coded the levels in the IA so that you can see what's at each level. I've gone with 5 navigation items in the main navigation and 5 items in the top level of the IA: about, spaces, programs, activities, and communities. And then I've tried to use verbs for the next level of the information architecture and the labels. So you'll see the about page is a bit of an anomaly, but under spaces we've got create, operate, and actually I'm going to delete those template items. I was just putting them there as a reminder. And again, then under programs we've got manage, plan, deliver, and evaluate. And under activities we've got find, contribute. Under community, connect, share about your events, and contribute activities. So they're all action words. And then underneath that we start to get back to nouns in a lot of instances, but sometimes they are still verbs. So under plan, because those are all actions that you do as part of planning, we've got design for learning, create themes, develop activities. Under deliver, run events, involve parents, and storytelling. So this is kind of a mishmash of some of your IAs and some of the things that over 2 years of working with this ghastly site I've thought about wanting to do myself. So this is what we're working with. It's not perfect. I know that there are issues with it. And some of it would require a reorientation of content in order to make it work. For example, the learning at the corner section would contain information about the learning frameworks and approaches they use at the corner, but I would actually have that content phrased for a different audience or a different purpose under design for learning. So I'd be talking about things like play-based approaches and those kinds of things. So there's a philosophies and frameworks section in there. So it's quite a simple IA. I also have a wireframe for you. Let me just find it. This is the homepage wireframe. The wireframe for the lower level pages will be very basic. So you can see there's the navigation at the top. Above that, a social media icon. On the right-hand side, I've got a secondary navigation for some of the key tasks that people might want to do on the site and to provide access straight through to the activities. I forgot to put a search box on there, so I will do that. I've got a headline region where you would put some text that explains what the purpose of the site is. And then I've included 4 feature spaces. So many of you did this in your assignments. You have these breakout boxes where you kind of surface content. And Sophie and I have been debating whether we should tell you what to put in those boxes or whether you should decide yourself. And the meanie in me wants you to decide yourself because I think it's something you might need more practice with. So what we might do is say, decide yourself, and we're not actually going to grade you on what you decide on. But I think it's a good idea for you to think about it. Because the phone is such a simple navigation, but there is quite a lot of content on the site, those kinds of feature spaces are a good way to provide access to things that are at a deeper level that are really important. Something else that you could do that I haven't had time to think through in terms of the IA is provide access based on users. So you could have it for librarians, for educators, for parents in that space. But it would require some reconfiguring of the IA. And in fact, if I was going to do the site properly, I probably would have those sections set up in the information application. So that's it in a nutshell. It will be very similar on the lower level pages. We've got two options. I can either give you a style sheet and then you'll have to put in the, just in my mouse. So for this section, for example, you would have to put in a div element so that it marks out that piece of content, and you would just write it like we did the asides and the footers, but you'd wrap the div around it, and that will cause this formatting to happen. Alternatively, we can forget about that, and you can just comment in feature space 1, feature space 2, feature space 3. It's up to you guys. I think in some ways it's easier to conceptualize if we do give you a CSS, because then once you make the CSS up, you'll see it like that. And then that helps you to understand how the content in the HTML document goes from being like this to being like this. And for those of you online, I mean like this. So it's really, I'm going to just close that. It's really up to you guys what you decide you want with that. Have a think about it overnight and let me know on Facebook. I'll leave you up a quick CSS / ArcSet for someone else to do because I am not quick at CSS. Does anyone have an instinct about what you think? Have a think. Yes. The main navigation will carry over. Yeah, so I'll give you a wireframe for the main page as well. It's just going to be super simple though. Yeah. It's just a question in Collaborate. Oh, sorry. You need to think about, oh, you're having trouble hearing. Sorry. I'll talk at the microphone. You need to think about whether you want a style sheet and to put in the div elements to make the style sheet work, or whether you want to just comment in the regions on the home page. Alternatively, we can just not do those feature spaces. So I'm open for discussion. I can make you a video about why it's important to have feature spaces, and then you can not do them if you like. What do you think? I think everyone would like to not do them and doesn't want to say it. Okay, I will simplify the wireframe. And so Helen, we were just talking about whether we want to use a style sheet or whether we want to not use a style sheet, whether we want to have those feature spaces on the home page or not. So what I'm going to do is create a simplified wireframe. I'll pop it up on Blackboard and we'll go from there. So this isn't the only briefing you'll get on this. I will make you a video that you can go back to that's more coherent than me rambling. Okay. So, right, pretend that, no, you don't even need to pretend, let's just get rid of them. I don't want to get rid of that because I like it. So I'll get rid of that later, but pretend that side navigation isn't there either. We'll just keep it really super simple. Sorry? Yeah, we'll just make it text on a page. Yeah. And an image. I want you to use an image. Yeah. Also, I know that you guys have been in the on-campus tutorial, Gavin may not have emphasised this much as I would emphasise it, but you must use directories. So your site has to be nice and tidy. You must have an images directory, and once you start moving down the information architecture, you need to have a directory for each section of the architecture. Does that make sense? No? Did you guys do the last tutorial? Yep, I'll show you what a directory is. Yes. Yes. Oh, okay. We call it folders on a computer, but when we are working on the web, we call it a directory. Yeah. Yeah. So you need an images folder, and once we head down into the second level of the IA, you'll need to have a folder for programs, spaces, blah, blah, blah. Except you're not creating them all, so you don't need one for all of them. Just programs and about, I think it will be. Okay, feature spaces shouldn't scare you, Hannah, but let's give it some more thought and we'll see how we go. What's the difference between an index and a directory? Index files are what you put in the directory. So the index.html file is what displays when you navigate to that directory. So once that site gets on the web, it's not going to work on your desktop, right? But once it's on the web, what have I got that I can show you? Okay, so let's use the example of everyone's favorite website. You can see here that /about, okay, so that's indicating that this is a directory, so it's a folder called about. What you don't see there is /index.html. That's because when you navigate to that pathway, index.html displays by default because it's the index file in that folder. So it would also work if we did this, I think. No, but that's probably because the site's database driven, so just ignore that altogether. And believe me that will work for you. So we didn't talk a great deal about that. Did you guys watch the videos about the web content management systems, database-driven sites versus no? I will point you to them. It's not critical stuff, it's just interesting. Yes?
Are you sure that they are using directories and not just simply rewrite the URL? HT616?
They could be, yeah. Yes, I think they might be. But I know that, for example, you guys have probably built things with WordPress before. So those types of sites, typically they're databases behind them. So the content is displayed dynamically. It's pretty rare that you actually create a HTML file, but you need to know how to do it anyway. Which sounds stupid, but trust me, you do. Probably the thing that I've used the most that I learned when I did this degree is how to create like HTML. And I'm not sure if I've told you, but I would have failed that subject if it wasn't for Sophie. What do you mean, can I confirm about the use of images? And I'm sorry about the peeling back. Unfortunately, we've had problems with the Wi-Fi on campus today. Also, Helen, it looks like your internet connection is a bit patchy. It might be because of the video. Let me just make the video black and white. Where is it? Where have they hidden that function? Used to be really easy. Okay, I'm going to turn the video off to try and help with the internet connection. So basically I'm going to give you an image to put on the home page, and I want you to put it in an images directory. That's all. Does that answer? Okay, good. So are there any other questions?
Just with the programs directory, so that's like the structure of it. So we have a folder for programs to make something.
Yeah. So in the information architecture, you will see that there's 5 main sections in the site, and I would expect each of those, over those greeny, the tealy ones, those would each have their own folder. Yeah.
We have their own schools or images folder.
I think for a site of this size, an images folder on the top level is fine. I won't be that mean. I think probably I'm not going to supply you images for the lower level pages, so my expectation isn't that you'll go and find them. I just want to know that you can put one image in, so that will do me. Do you have a question?
Sorry, there was a green icons that are folders basically, right?
The teal ones, the first level of 5. Yeah. You could actually create folders at the next level as well. Yeah, but we're not, I mean, the only one you'll be creating is manage. So yeah, I mean, whack a directory in there as well, and then put your, you'll be making the records and the policies page, and so you can put them in there. Yes. 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 So come and make a start on Sunday. It's a good time to do it. Yeah.
You have 2 lots of structures. I'm trying to think like how we work that together.
The easiest way to collaborate on this. So I would say work together on your first page if you can, or have someone do a first cut and then check and agree. Keep kind of iterating that first page until you know that you're happy with it. Maybe make it the, oh look, seeing I took all the other stuff out of the home page, it's not going to be any different, so that's not going to be a problem. Get one page right, and then just work on them independently on your own machines, and then pull them back together at the end. If you both set up the structure of the folders, it will just remind you to update the relative links appropriately, but you can fix that at the end pretty easily anyway. Yeah. The other thing you can do is just not worry about any of the contextual links until the end when it all comes back together, and then you can go through and put the links in. So you could leave the navigation if you wanted to, just to make sure that you get it right at the end. Just use a folder with the same name, make sure you've got the same folders within it named correctly, and yeah, it should work. But I haven't had any problems in 6 years, so I hope you'll be okay. Oh, that's cool. There is an online text editor that allows for real-time collaboration, so you can work on it together. It's called collabedit.com. Teresa, I think we're not going to worry about the feature spaces. So I'll update the specs tomorrow. So everyone just don't panic about it, because ideally, if you're coming on Sunday, let's just start it on Sunday anyway. It might seem like a gargantuan amount of work, but it's not a gargantuan amount of work. Everyone labors over the HTML. Don't labor over the HTML and leave yourself no time to do the content. I would probably even start writing the content first. But because you've got me on the weekend, then you might want to use that time to do some of the technical stuff. Robin has asked, seeing as we are only working on the top level pages, is it okay if any links to lower level pages are broken? Yes, you don't have to create the links to the other pages. No, sorry, you don't have to create the pages for the other ones. Just put the link references in and make them logical file names so that we look at it and know what you understand what you're doing, but you don't have to create those pages. So we've deliberately given you a path through the site so that you'll create all of that one path and be able to move backwards and forwards through it. So it shouldn't be a problem, but the other pages aren't done. Any other questions? Remember, we've given you a week's extension, so it's not due until the end of week 14, so the end of the swap back week. We'll have the online session this Sunday, and we're always happy to take questions on Facebook or whatever in the intervening time. In that last weekend when this assignment's due, we'll do the usual Facebook check on Saturday afternoon to make sure you're all okay. But feel free to look at each other's code and stuff in between. If you have a problem and you want to put your source up there for someone else to see, that's fine. And that's worked really well in the past. I remember one year I saw someone tweet at like 2 o'clock in the morning, who wants to be my human validator? And I was like, right, okay, it's collaboration. But the fact of this is, we're not trying to teach you to be HTML experts, we're trying to teach you the basics so that when you have to do something, you know enough about the structure of the language that you can Google to find out how to do it. Basically, that's what we're doing. Cool. Rewatch Sophie's lecture. Look out for the specifications, which will go up after I send your assignment stuff, which should be tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow night. All good? Okay, cool. Just yell out if you need anything, we'll be around. So Gavin probably won't be back in class with us, which I just realised is really random. We should have had our last class with him, with us both here. No, Helen, no Dublin corridor. So I'm going to give you the meta tags to use and a little metadata activity, but it's really not. Yeah, I did show you Dublin core on the video because I wanted to show you a schema. But no, you don't have to use Dublin core because it's Fastly and we don't want to go there. Yeah, no DC. So I'll put up those meta tags for you as well. I'm not going to do it in a hurry. The important thing with metadata is that your metadata should be unique for every page. If it's not unique, we're going to go, how is that page going to be findable? So I put there's a video, a Google video talking about what they actually use for ranking and not. Search engines don't necessarily use the keywords, but we want you to do them regardless because you'll have to in most organizations anyway, and it's good practice. But yeah, it's the description that they use. Okay, so that's probably it. How many of you are coming on Sunday? Cool. I just remembered I haven't booked a room. I should do that. Okay, great. Well, I'll see you on Sunday. I'll be online as well as in a room somewhere, which I will update you about shortly. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. See ya.